week's episode of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. Tekkadan is getting ready to go on a diplomatic mission to Earth. But first, they're going to need a brand new spaceship. Also, there's some corn that needs a pickin'. This week's episode of Iron-Blooded Orphans was an information dump kind of episode. A necessary evil, if you will. That being said, I really like this episode, and that's because I wanted to learn a little bit more about the world of Iron-Blooded Orphans. And this week's episode has a lot of information to take in. It is a very talky episode, but I really liked it because we finally got to learn a little bit more about all of the different factions and alliances that actually exist on Earth. It's very reminiscent of the classic Gundam anime series that we've seen in the past, in particular Gundam 00, especially with all the different unions which take place on Earth. That with Mars and the Galahorn group shows that there's going to be a lot of political intrigue in this show. Not only that, but I really liked the characterization in this episode, in particular that final scene in the cornfield between Mika and Kudelia Ina Bernstein, the resident princess of this Gundam series. Speaking of residents, I can deduce after watching this week's episode that McGillis Farid of the Galahorn group is the most likely candidate for being the Char Aznable clone of this Gundam anime series. He's not wearing the mask, but he's got the blonde hair, the motives, and the personality. And that confrontation he had with Mika at the end of this week's episode, when Mika was choking out his assistant, was so classic Amuro versus Char, except that Mika is a little more insane. I really love that scene a lot because he has this really nice, tender moment with Ina right there hanging out in the cornfield. They're just relaxing with each other, and this is when he tells her that basically life on Mars sucks. They work their asses off, and they make barely any money whatsoever. Ina finds herself being humbled by Mika, and this is a really nice change of pace, because usually it's the princess who's always trying to change the main hero. This time it's the main hero who's trying to change the princess. I dig this change, and it's a really sweet, heartwarming scene, especially when the wind starts blowing. That combined with the music just makes it all so beautiful. And then in the next shot, Mika is just completely choking out this Galahorn dude because he almost ran over Biscuit's sisters. It really shows how insane and sociopathic he is. Another thing about this week's episode is I have no idea why Orga has decided to keep that character Toto around, otherwise known as Space Hitler. The guy looks just like Hitler. Don't trust him. He clearly has ulterior motives. Hell, at the end of this week's episode during the end credit sequence, he's shadily talking to someone on the phone, so he's clearly up to something. All I know is, in the next episode, the Gundam better just stomp out and just crush him. I'm tired of your shenanigans, Space Hitler! Pack your bags and get out of here! Aside from that, that's pretty much the bulk of this week's episode. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans? This was a really nice episode because we finally got to sit down with the characters and breathe a little bit. The last couple episodes have been so intense with all of the orphans fighting and all of the executions and mobile suit battles that we really needed some downtime before things started to get real serious, because it's pretty clear that Tekkadan is getting ready to go on this really big journey to Earth, and you know there's just going to be trouble along the way. They're probably going to be getting it from all sides. What's also really cool about this episode, and what I did not mention before, is that there's this whole other subplot which involves the character of Akihiro, who is a part of the group which is known as Human Debris. Basically, they are space slaves, and what I love about Akihiro, and I've already said this before, is that he looks just like Guts from Berserk, and he kind of acts like him as well. But his team has had the task of going out and finding their flagship, which is going to be known as the Isaribi, which is this long red spaceship, which I believe is the one that you can actually see in the intro of the show. I like the design of it. It's different. It's not a carbon copy of White Base or any of the other ships that we've seen in the previous Gundam anime, and I like the uniqueness of it in general. The one part of the episode that just feels a little bit forced is the whole love triangle they have going on between Mika, Kudelia Ina Bernstein, and Atra. It's just really strange, especially because I don't know the ages of the characters. I mean, Ina looks like she's a lot older than both Mika and Atra looks like she's from a completely different anime series, mostly because of her design. She looks like a Gundam Build Fighters character who's been transplanted into a regular Gundam series, but I'm not really all that interested to see where that love story is going, but it might lead to some good drama later on as the series is building up towards its conclusion. That being said, this week's episode still looked really nice. The animation, the artwork, the character designs are all really good and very distinct from one another, if anything. Not one character looks like the others. The voice acting is really good. There was no mobile suit action, but still, this was a really good, informative episode, which is building on the world of Iron-Blooded Orphans. So I liked it. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I wanted to see some more action, but this was still an enjoyable episode, especially if you wanted to learn more about the world. But before you guys leave today, I want to hear from you guys. Did you watch this week's episode of Iron-Blooded Orphans? Did you have a favorite scene, a favorite character who showed up? What do you want to see from the rest of this brand new Gundam anime? Please tell me in the comments section below. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. Make sure to like it and share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. Make sure to also check us out on social media like Facebook and on Twitter. Remember to also check out our weekly podcast show. It's pretty freaking awesome. You can download the show for free in the description box below. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!